Gender-neutral bathrooms drive UK schoolgirls to hold it in all day or stay home altogether when they're menstruating. If only progressives would invent a movement that sought to protect girls' rights to male-free spaces. We could even call it, I don't know, feminism? I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Happy Monday to you all. Today we discuss a Georgia school district's transgender bathroom reversal after the superintendent received numerous death threats. Plus, Kellogg cereal creates a special limited edition LGBTQ cereal to promote diversity and acceptance. Sugary breakfast treats and acceptance. Who didn't know they went together? But we start across the pond where girls are actually skipping school because they're afraid and insecure and anxious about being forced to share bathrooms with boys. How could ever that have happened? Yeah, and so this is a big problem, and we've talked about it many, many times. You've got to feel bad for these girls. I mean, we all remember what it was like to be 8 years old or 9 years old, where we were nervous around our peers, where we were shy, changing in the bathrooms, taking showers after gym class. They're all very delicate things for young children to negotiate, but not in England, where apparently the girls have just decided to stop going to school. We have a situation here where girls are actually not going to school because when they're menstruating, they don't want to be in bathrooms with boys. When did we decide that for an uber-specific set of minority people, I mean, look, the homosexuality has largely been magnified to be around, 10, 12, 15% of the population, when really it's about 3%, right? And the population of so-called transgender people is so infinitesimally small. What happened to single bathrooms? I mean, we went from the idea that transgender kids need single bathrooms to be safe to unless you force boys into girls' bathrooms, there is no safety. And single bathrooms now, multi-purpose bathrooms for individuals is now considered discriminatory.
And this is where I had the issue. I guess when I was a 12-year-old girl, you may not understand this, never having been one, unless you claim to have identified as a 12-year-old girl.
In a previous life, I was Pippi Longstockings.
But as a 12-year-old girl, I would have loved to have a single-sex toilet just for myself.
I want one now.
Exactly.
Forget 20 when I was 12.
But it is a simple fact that they are putting the transgender movement here, saying maybe not even 1%, that we are putting the whole 99% away just for that.
That's right.
One little percent. And if you were ever a 12-year-old girl, you understand how anxious you do get if you're menstruating,
sure,
just to be around other girls, much less the horror that would be being around boys at that same time period. No pun intended.
This is misogyny. I'm sorry. There's no other way to call this. This is misogyny. This is exactly what we've been told by feminists for years. This is a culture that is actively targeting women and girls. This is a culture that is actually staggering the deck in favor of a very small number of men who think they're girls, boys who think they're girls. You are staggering this. This is misogyny. This is all the things that the progressive left used to tell us about toxic masculine culture, and it's the progressives who are doing it. And you talk about bathrooms here. It is not that complicated to just create a gender-neutral bathroom, all right? Because you're never going to have more than a handful of kids who use it on a daily basis anyway. Although, I'll go back to what you said. If I were an 8-year-old, and I had, as an 8-year-old little boy or little girl, we had those problems, with collective bathroom deals or nakedness or showers or stuff. I mean, I might at 8 years old be tempted to call myself transgender if I got to use the bathroom all to myself. It's a big deal. No matter how many bathrooms we have in our houses, no matter how many bathrooms I have in my house, the one that I pick out for myself, the wife's going to use it. Right? It's just an endless, stressful thing, isn't it?
Is it now?
And what if we just had, for these kids, separate bathrooms?
What?
But that's separate but equal. And that's discrimination.
That's discrimination.
Unless on college campuses and high schools, you're creating dorms for black people
then
and graduations. Separate but equal is okay if you're giving Native Americans their own graduation ceremonies, or you're building dorms just for LGBTQ people. But the idea that you would separate but equal by creating a series of single-use bathrooms, that's wrong.
Over in the UK, doctors and politicians now are actually calling on the schools to halt these moves towards the unisex toilets to prevent any further harm, because I guess, doctors actually know what could possibly happen to these girls. And so we have a Dr. Tessa Katz who said that holding in urine for a prolonged period of time on a regular basis could increase the risk of girls suffering urinary and bladder infections. Oh my gosh, it's like a medical marvel that she understands that. She says a psychological effect, of girls not feeling safe enough to use mixed-sex toilets is also concerning. So we know the physical damage, but the mental damage is also what they're talking about.
The psychic damage is much worse than the potential for UTI infections and that sort of thing. The parents, of course, at Deansbury Primary School in South Ruislip, West London, where this took place, they launched a petition last month against the introduction of unisex toilets. Not the individual ones, but boys and girls and boys. And one of the Tories, one of the members of Parliament, David Davies, actually backs the feminist claim that transgender rights are overriding those of women. He said, quote, "If girls are not comfortable sharing toilets with boys, then schools should make provision for that handful of boys rather than saying girls have got a problem." And that's what you're doing now. And we're telling girls who have these issues, who have these anxieties, that it's your fault, that you're bigoted, that you can't deal with the rights of other people, that you're not willing to share. It's a criminal act of misogyny against little girls. And I just wish more of the feminists who have an opinion about everything would speak out about this instead of trying to play it very woke. Stop. There's a reason we have no all-male schools in this country. It's a reason we don't have any all-boy colleges. All right? That's because, it's not fair. We still have all-women's colleges until now, where now some of these long-standing women's colleges are allowing boys who think they're girls. And stop doing it. Stop undermining what feminism has worked so hard to achieve. I have very little respect for academic feminism. Feminism is about equality. Right? We're way beyond the point at which, generally speaking, women and men are equal. Women and men are equal under the law. Feminism should, as far as I'm concerned, that aspect of feminism should lay down and die. You've achieved equality. But we've got all this academic feminism, which seems to argue for some kind of nascent superiority of the female. Where are you guys?
Well, let's come back over here to the United States, because we have a similar story where we have a Georgia school district that had actually changed their bathroom policy to allow transgender students to use whatever bathroom they want. But then there was backlash because the superintendent actually received death threats. So Pickens County Superintendent Carlton Wilson said that he was getting death threats, and now they're reversing the policy. So they're going back to the way it is, where boys use the boys' room and girls use the girls' room.
Well, two things. It's sad that anybody's giving death threats. So you stop doing death threats, whoever you are, wherever you are, number one. And number two, it is also a little bit alarming to me that a threat, whether from the pro-trans or the anti-trans group, makes a school stop doing anything. Stop caving in that way, right? You made a bad decision. You opened the bathrooms up across the board to transgenders. You made a mistake. If you're going to reverse it because it's the wrong thing to do, not because somebody threatened you. I mean, in every possible way, the Georgia school screwed this up.
Another one told Mr. Young that if anything happened to his daughter, he would pay for it.
That's where we are in 2019 on pretty much any hater comment you get on Facebook or Twitter or anywhere else. Whatever a situation may be, a policy may have been implemented, that's where we go, where you draw sides. And this trans issue has been escalating more and more across the nation. Yeah,
and to me, the real story, untold story here is what happened to our so-called public schools. They're not public schools. They're government schools. All of these changes are being orchestrated without a single mom and dad having a say in this. Look, if moms and dads, this is in what, Pickens County, is it?
Pickens County.
Pickens County, Georgia, right? Mm-hmm. Moms and dads in Pickens County, Georgia are paying huge property taxes to fund these schools. Why don't you let the parents vote, right? Let the parents vote. Do you want boys and girls bathrooms? You know how that vote's going to go. In 99% of the counties of this country, you know how that vote's going to go, which is why they don't let them do it.
Well, and then the news broadcast for this, when they showed, because they had a big school board meeting where the school board members were sitting on the stage and the whole auditorium was full. When you see the comments from parents and students, the parents are the ones who seem to be saying boys should go to the boys' room, girls go to the girls' room, and it's the children, it's the ones who've been indoctrinated who are like, but I can identify as whatever I want, or Billy can identify as whatever she wants.
You've got government pushing radical progressive sexual ideas in the schools. Teachers being compelled through comprehensive sex education to push a radical sexual agenda. Then you got real little kids who think they're entitled to this and get patted on the head at school for having those ideas. And then you got all the moms and dads who want no part of it. Again, the little kids don't pay for their own schooling. Little kids don't pay property taxes. Let the mothers and fathers who largely fund this school, let them vote. And then look, if you live in a county where your school votes all trans bathrooms, move one county over, or send your kid to a local private school, or homeschool them. This way, it's the moms and dads on the ground who are having a primary say in this. As of right now, they have no say.
That's because you want to empower local school district
Heaven
control
forbid.
Instead of this state
Collectivism.
And federal control.
Yeah.
That's
remind me what the word common and common core means again? Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about something a little bit more fun. Breakfast cereals, because that's the big news of the week is breakfast cereals. More importantly and specifically, Kellogg's breakfast cereals. So Wheaties, you're kicked to the curb because now Kellogg's has launched an LGBTQ themed cereal called Altogether. To promote diversity and acceptance, Kellogg said the cereal is, quote, a symbol of acceptance no matter how you look, where you're from, or who you love. So, for the low cost of $19.99 per box, you can have 6 individual packages of Corn Flakes, Fruit Loops, Frosted Flakes, Frosted Mini Wheats, Raisin Bran, and Rice Krispies, dumped all into one. Again, $19.99.
You've got fruits and flakes already represented in the Kellogg's lineup. Why do you need this, right? Oh, for the love of God. It reminds me of a bad parody. Remember the old parody video on Saturday Night Live, Colon Blow, where you had this where they were making fun of the proliferation of high brand, you're going to poop now cereals. And so they came up with Colon Blow. Colon Blow, ironically, given the sexual implication of this, would fit alongside the flakes and the fruits, wouldn't it here?
Haven't you heard? Fiber is really good for you.
Well, there's fiber, and then there's high fiber. Try this.
Colon Blow.
And so I don't know. I mean, one of the things that I find most alarming about where we are in 2020, 2019, 2020, where we find ourselves in this part of the century is how radically the corporations in America have gotten on board with this. The problem is that the conservative mom and dad, the traditional mom and dad, 70% of American moms and dads go to work every day, they punch their clock, they take their kids to their ballet lessons, they try to get the roof on the house fixed, they walk the dogs, they don't pay attention, and they don't advocate. But you've got I sometimes wonder if it's a handful of 5 people in a basement somewhere with a fax machine who are texting all these companies, if you don't change, we're gonna bust you. We're gonna shut down your business. I mean, isn't it just yesterday we found out that a tampon company was forced to remove the image of a female. Always, the tampon people, right? The Always tampon people had a little female stick figure on their pads, right? So I guess clueless men who didn't know any better wouldn't buy them. Well, progressive trans bullies now got Always to remove the little female decal from their packaging. It's a small group of people who are doing this, and the sad thing is that this goes back to the Georgia story. What did it take for some misguided parents to finally drive the Georgia school to rescind their policy? Death threats, right? I didn't even know if they were parents. But this is the circumstance you commit, the circumstance you create. If moms and dads have no input, right? If only a handful of woke evangelists, let's call them that, get their way by threats, you're a mom and dad, you're a citizen of Pickens County, Georgia, and all of this is done without even consulting you. I understand why the impulse for some people is to go, stop it or we're going to kill you, right? So let's make a situation where this is America, where it's not just a handful of radicals are deciding everything. And the corporations of America, they should be made to pay a price. They know that when they go woke, most Americans are tolerant enough to say, and that's sweet, but I'm just not going to buy it, right? By the way, who would feed their kids that? In one cereal box, Corn Flakes, Fruit Loops, Frosted Flakes, Frosted Mini Wheats, Raisin Bran, and Rice Krispies, right? Let's just take all of the sugary worst that we have and blend it together into one great sugar casserole.
Well, with that specific grouping, I'm going to look at the science of it. Number one, the first thing is the image of it. Let's look on the cover of this box. All of those characters are male.
Yes, they are.
There's a cock on there.
Well, they're fruity though.
There's a sun. S-U-N, but, son. I know what they're implying there, male. And the real issue, though, the science of it, is that all of these cereals, I've had them all, and they all reach peak sogginess at different levels. So when you pour your little milk in there, which one's going to get soggiest fastest? You're going to be left with those darn mini wheats, trying to crunch down those things. We've all had the mini wheats.
Colon blow.
Colon blow. So it's going to be a cold, sloppy mess. But you know what? That pretty much sums up what they're doing with that box.
Yeah, you got a sun, a cock, you got a tiger on that board, that box. Again, I go back to what I said before. The sane American shopper, which is about 70% of them, have to start making them pay a price. You just have to. You should be. I get that you get dictated to by your government. I get that your schools are lecturing you on how you ought to raise your kids. But to allow Kellogg's breakfast cereals to give you a lesson in tolerance, just stand up to these idiots and don't buy it.
Well, and I'm going to promote, because this whole episode, I think we need to promote a new movement. We'll call it the Backbone Movement. Anyone who has one, which everyone potentially could have one, start using it, because that's what's happening, is no one is standing up to anything.
But by urging a backbone as the common denominator, you've just eradicated liberal participation.
That is a sad end to our Monday, but we made it through our Monday. So as always, please share the episode and subscribe to the free audio podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and everywhere else. Just visit drdukeshow.com and click on any of the platforms on the top to subscribe.
And that's it for us today. If you like the show, please consider supporting it by signing up for our Patriot Club. Just $25 per month keeps us going and keeps you informed about the latest breakfast cereal incidents. Visit thedrdukeshow.com to get started. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time with an always entertaining episode of The Dr. Duke Show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie. And until tomorrow, stay educated, my friends.